Welcome everyone to another Debating Europe online event. My name is Alessandra Cardacci and I have the pleasure to moderate this exciting discussion on behalf of Debating Europe. Before I welcome our distinguished panelists, I have to say we have an amazing mix of different perspectives today. So I'm sure you will enjoy, and it's going to be interactive. So you will also have the chance to ask questions, comment via the chat or live. Let me just give you a little bit of a context of why we're doing this event. So this event, as you know, is about a very crucial topic. It's about bridging the gap between skills and the job market, especially in the green and digital transition, and especially for young people, but not only. We all know that we have sometimes some shortage in terms of skills that companies are requesting to be able to, develop the green and digital transition. So this event is not just about understanding how we can support young people, citizens in upskilling or training and so on, but it's also about reflecting about the fact that if we do not support people that are the heart of this transition, Europe as a continent won't be able to become more green and digital, actually. So I have the honor to welcome, as I said at the beginning, three amazing speakers. We have Victor Negrescu, who is Vice President of the European Parliament. And hi, Victor Negrescu. And if you don't mind, I'd like Negrescu, who is Vice President of the European Parliament. And hi, Victor Negrescu. Thank you for joining. So thank you, Victor, for being here. What's very interesting about having Victor here is that he's not only the Vice President of the European Parliament, but he was also the former rapporteur for the European Year of Skills and Competencies. So, of course, an excellent profile to provide some interesting perspectives in this debate. Then we have Ms. Wibe Lindgaard-Bach. Of course, my pronunciation is not the best, who is joining us from Denmark. Hi, Wibe. Thank you for joining.
Hi, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
And Wibe is CEO of the Ready School of Digital Integration. And you will hear directly from her the amazing work they're doing on the ground to again, bridge the gap between the digital job market needs and people who are in need of having a proper job opportunities. And then lastly, but definitely not least, I'm very happy to also welcome Min Huilai, who is joining us from Paris. Hi, Min.
Hi, everyone.
Who is CEO at Generations, and it will definitely cover the aspect of empowering youth thanks to training, to supporting them, again, fitting the job market that is required today. And before we enter into the conversation and bring speakers in, let me just explain that we will have around 20-25 minutes of discussion with our distinguished panelists. And then lastly, we will open the floor to you for around 15 minutes. I'm also very happy, I think in the audience, we will have someone from the European Commission, DG Employment, so really the people working on the skills and supporting people's transition to the job market, and other interesting profiles among yourselves from the civil society and working on, for example, the Future Generation Initiative. So there is really a lot today in this event. So thank you all so much for joining. And indeed, I just want to stress thank you to our participants for being here. Don't hesitate to use the chat and raise your hand towards the end of the panel discussion to start sharing your thoughts and comments. So this event is actually the result of a consultation that we ran in 2023-2024 involving 2,000 citizens from 7 European countries, where we asked them basically what they wish for, what they're worried about, what they want from their politicians, and from the different actors in society, what they expect to have a better life, ultimately, whether it's about the economy, the green transition, the digital transition, and so on. And what came up, which is basically the result is this event, is that they're very worried about the fact that young people especially don't feel fit for the job market. They don't feel they have the right support, the right skills to enter the digital and green transition. At the same time, we know again that the private sector is sometimes, let's say, complaining about the lack of these resources. So the first question I have for Victor, Mr. Negrescu, is to you, and it's about, of course, what the EU, and particularly the European Parliament, has done so far and intends to continue doing this new legislation to equip young people, feeling more skilled, more fit for the green and digital job market. So over to you for your thoughts on this. Thank you.
So indeed, it's a key topic, the issue of skills and education and lifelong learning at the same time, because it's a complex process that needs to be better designed. Indeed, of course, if we look at the previous years, the European Union has tried to tackle this issue, and it developed different initiatives regarding apprenticeship, regarding the youth guarantee, even the child guarantee partially covers some of those aspects, but also many calls coming from Erasmus. And even partially, we can have some solutions provided through Erasmus program, but also through the recovery plans. Nevertheless, it seems that all those different initiatives have not been well correlated or integrated in providing a predictable plan for the future. And this leads to many challenges right now, but also to figures that are worrying for all of us. Because you can look, for instance, at youth unemployment, and you will notice that young people tend to be more unemployed than the other generations. If you look at numbers, you see that young people, unfortunately, many of them are unskilled or unprepared for the future professions or the skill that they would require for the future. If you look at the numbers, you will see that we had a high expectation when it comes to digital skills, but those targets are not being met. So what I believe as Vice President of the European Parliament, but also someone that has been a strong advocate for better action of the European Union when it comes to skills, that we need a coherent plan with clear steps, but also with actions that have a direct impact on the ground, especially in the areas, but also in the regions where we are lacking behind. For instance, the possibility of creating skills vouchers that will enable young people by themselves, of course, to get access to skilling and training. We also need to make sure that we have an ecosystem, not only at European level, but also at local level, that will make skilling attractive an opportunity for all individuals, including for vulnerable young people, but also including, of course, dealing with the issue of gender inequalities, making sure that young people from rural areas get access to this type of trainings, and so forth. Maybe we should here design an integrated solution that will enable young people, all young people, to get access to the skills that they need. Meaning that it's not enough only to have skilling opportunities. We need to provide professional orientation. We need to provide psychological help. We need to make sure that, for instance, young mothers or mothers are supported, for instance, when it comes to childcare, in order for them to have the time to be trained. We need to make sure that also people coming from disadvantaged families are supported in order for them to actually have the time to get trained for the skill that they require in the future. So we need a tailor-made approach as much as possible that allows a big and clear format, but in the same time, the possibility for regions, municipalities, countries to personalize their intervention on the ground. Furthermore, I believe that we need to accelerate the process, because we have the targets for 2030, but we need to do more in order to make sure that we meet those targets. We can accelerate the process by allocating more people from the Commission dealing with that, by interacting more with the private sector, not only from time to time for nice events. We need to make sure that, of course, there is a follow-up, not only every year in the European semester format, but actually analyze how things are happening, but also make sure that we are approaching this challenge at European level, meaning that we need to learn from each other faster, because there are interesting examples, positive examples in different places in Europe, but they are not scaled up. But also we see that despite the fact that we provide financial support, those projects are not being put together. For instance, in the recovery plans, There are specific targets when it comes to the number of people that need to be trained on projects that need to be done on skilling. But a project that is being done in Romania is not connected with the project that is being done in Bulgaria, or a project in Belgium is not connected to any project in France, despite, being neighboring countries. And of course, we need to have this European perspective when it comes to skilling and training. Moreover, we need to have common benchmarks and KPIs, and we don't have them right now. And I can give you an example, and I will finish on that. So countries have designed their national recovery plans, and many of them have included in their recovery plans projects related to skilling. In some cases, the KPI is the number of people that attend the training. In other cases, the KPI, in other countries, the KPI is linked to the number of people that get the diploma. In some cases, the KPI is to have a complex set of skills at the end of the training, which might be interesting. In other cases, the KPI is only one training, one skill, one certificate at the end. In some cases, the certificate is recognized at European level. In other cases, the certificate is not recognized at European level, despite using EU money for that. So, of course, there is no perfect or easy solution. I think we need to accelerate the process, do more, be more concrete, more down to earth, understand the challenges, recognize when we have problems, but actually we need to do something fast, because as the Draghi report shows, Europe is lagging behind, and I'm scared that the cost to manage to skill people will become higher in the years to come if we don't do something concretely today. And for that, of course, we need to put the positive and constructive energies together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Victor, Mr. Negrescu, for this insight. And indeed, it's about having a European approach, more coherent, uniform KPIs, but at the same time, obviously understanding the different audiences, the vulnerable groups, having specific KPIs, and also the importance of sharing best practice. And we try to do so in our event, indeed, by bringing two practitioners, social entrepreneur, let's say. So I now turn to first Wiebe. Wiebe, can you share your experience in Denmark with the Ready School? And before you do so, because I see that the time is running fast and I want to make sure we have then at the end enough time for interaction with the audience, I'll maybe merge two questions for you already, and then I'll do the same with Min, and then I'll come back to Victor towards the end. So I'd like to understand, first of all, what you're concretely doing on the ground, how you managed to do it, also the role of the private sector, because we all know that, even the same event has the support of a company that is also investing a lot in corporate social responsibility, so in skills, in supporting especially vulnerable groups. So on the one hand, understanding what you are doing to bridge the gap between the skills and job market, especially with vulnerable groups, and what are your expectations from the role of the private sector and, for example, big companies in helping also. So it's not just the European institutions, but also the private sector contributing to this important topic. Thank you, Wiebe. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, I'll do it as fast as possible, but I really just need to give you the context of Ready School and why I'm here. Because Ready School is a European non-profit tech school founded in Berlin in 2015 as a direct response to the many Syrian refugees coming to stay in all over Europe, basically. How it started is a legend, but it's also a common today it's the common sense of how we do things in Ready School, and it's also an answer to your question. So allow me a little storytelling. So the founder then, she was of course desperate to see all these refugees arriving, and initially, and then she went to a refugee camp and tried to figure out what to do, and she looked at mountains of shoes, one separated from the other, by the way, and clothing and whatever stuff. And she thought, okay, that's not, they don't need more of that help. What do they need? She sat down to talk with a man, He was a software engineer. He fled Syria without his computer. What did he want? He wanted a computer. Why? So that he could continue his professional development, maybe eventually keep track of his customers and stay alive on his own at his own effort. So she started a campaign, and one thing led to another, and now we have 7 ready schools all over Europe. What we do is always we start with the beneficiary. We start with the woman. In Denmark, it's only women. In the other European locations, it may also be youth, or it may be also men, but it's always people with migrant backgrounds. We ask them what they dream of, what they need, and where they are stuck. And then we design programs that will eventually move them from one place to a better place. But what is a better place? That is, for many of them, it is access to further education, which is upskilling from the level they have or they had when they came to Europe, or maybe even they didn't manage to get a lot of education, even though they grew up in Europe, but still belonging to marginalized groups. But a better place is for many of them, of course, it's a job. And we have circled in the IT job markets. I wouldn't say tech industry, because nowadays there you can't really mention a company that hasn't got an IT department of a certain size. So it's general IT jobs within a lot of industries. But what we have been facing in Denmark now for 5 years is that we have very well-educated women coming to Denmark, and they have been working in many other parts of the world. But when they come to Denmark, they are getting invisible. We can't see them. So what's wrong? Because they actually hold the skills that companies ask for. So in order to get wiser, we need to talk to companies. And that would also be my general advice going forward for the European Parliament and the Commission. You need to have the companies engaged in any kind of processes taking place to minimize the gap. Because it is not only a question, in my approach, of making people feel ready or get ready, get skilled, get upskilled, get reskilled, whatever. It is also a question of asking companies, employers, to look at it differently, to look at potential with another lens, you might say. So in our dialogue with very many kinds of companies in Denmark and in Europe, we have a very open dialogue about about how to see the perfect fit in another way. You can't get someone who is newly educated, has an agile mindset, and a ton of experience. I mean, you need to be more open towards maybe another background than you imagined, and then some upskilling that the company can take on themselves much better than we can as NPOs or organizations outside.
Thank you, Vibe. I think you sent a very important message also. It's great to have here the Vice President of the Parliament and also representatives from the European Commission to also hear the message about it's also about hearing what companies need and try to match indeed that. So that's a great message. And I think it leads very nicely to what Min is going to tell us about his job in terms of training young people, also very much in line with what Vibe is saying. So please, Min, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I start to do a 30-second introduction of the generation, and then I'll talk about the question about how we work with private sector and together to address different challenges and issues that we have in terms of attracting and training youth for employment. So Generation, quickly, it's an international NGO. We work in 70 countries, including 5 in Europe. So in Europe, we're in Ireland, UK, France, Spain, and Italy. And we start working in Spain in 2015. So that's just a very quick background. So we are training for employment organizations, And primarily we work with low skill youth that not in employment, and we try to provide bootcamp training, mentoring, customized support, and then place them in jobs at partner companies. So the way we get them to jobs is to work very closely with companies at every step of the way. So first of all, if you can believe it, we used to have problem to find enough jobs for our graduates. So typically we don't launch any training unless we in advance mobilize enough jobs. So our standard is at 50%. So if we don't have 50% of confirmed jobs, we don't launch training. Our promise is to get people to jobs. So if they no job, we don't train, right? So it makes sense. So we work with companies in advance to mobilize the jobs. We work with companies to customize, verify our curriculum market relevant. Otherwise, to make sure that our graduates are job ready. So then we check with companies, say, hey, this is the curriculum. Could you check that everything is in here? Technical skills, soft skills, the length of it, and different module, practical aspect, theory aspect, all of that. We work with companies in advance to design curriculum. We ask companies to provide speakers, to provide teachers, instructors, and in some case, company provide mentors, industry mentors. So they extremely involved in our process. And obviously, we prepare our learners for job interviews. And then we support our graduates up to 6 months after graduation. And once they're in the job, because we know onboarding is difficult, sometimes the first negative feedback, they drop out. So we care a whole lot about the impact that we do. So for us, training doesn't stop at training. We want them to get to jobs, but then if they lose their job within 3 months of placement, then we're not making any impact. So that's why we support them, and we care a whole lot about job retention. Because Victor earlier talked about KPI. Our KPI go very far. So we care finally about what we call lasting impact, right? So if they stay in the job, but then we care about what the salary they make, the promotion they have, and their well-being. So we survey our alumni, follow up with them up to 5 years after graduation to understand whether they can save, whether they can then provide for their daily financial needs, their future orientation in life, and so on and so forth. So we go very far in terms of supporting and tracking our employers, not our learners, our graduates. So, and then, so quickly is to say, currently we have a lot of jobs, but we don't have enough of young people willing to do certain jobs, digital tech programs that we have, or green job program. For example, heat pump installation program that we have in France, or PV solar panel program that we have in Italy and in Spain. We struggle to attract enough people. And then we work with companies, obviously, to address and combat biases, whether, these jobs are manual, too hard for me, it's not for me, particularly for women candidates. So we work step by step in very hands-on approach in order to address each of the problems that we have. I'll stop here.
That's another great and inspiring example, again, also addressing the tailor-made approach, right? So instead of just offering training for the sake of offering training, actually tailoring them to the company's needs and motivating, young people to get fit for the jobs that are needed. So, thank you all so much. I would start encouraging the audience to ask questions either via the chat or by raising your hand. Remember, this is a great occasion to exchange among us about this topic. And before I do that, I'm interested to hear from Victor about the role of the private sector. So, we discussed about what the EU is doing, and we fully agree with what Wiebe and Min said in terms of, as a think tank, in terms of the importance of bringing different stakeholders together to solve the issue, so including the private sector. So the question I would have for you before I truly open the floor for question interaction is, what would you expect from the private sector as well to help contribute filling the gap between the job and the skills, especially when it comes to young people, and maybe in the experience you've had with projects you mentioned before, there's something you may want to cover there.
So we need what we all understand is that we cannot meet the targets without a real partnership between all the relevant stakeholders. We need the private sector because this is where people spend most of their time. So, of course, on-job training can become easier. In the same time, the private sector is interested in skilling people because they want to increase their productivity and they know that they can maintain their competitiveness by having better skilled people. But of course, these are not the only partners. We need NGOs, we need local authorities, we need even the local schools and universities to be involved in the process. And of course, we need also the media, by the way, to promote the positive examples and, of course, popularize skilling, make skilling attractive again. Because most of the people that get skilled is because they are sometimes forced to do that in their job, or they go to skill because there are some benefits. In some cases, you get money, you get a certain amount of money if you attend the skilling. And of course, only few people go to skill because they want to train all the time. Basically, something else that conditions them or pushes them into skilling. So that means that skilling is not as attractive as it should be, knowing that our opportunities for the future depend on how skilled we are. You need to spend money. You need to spend time to get skilled. But of course, in some cases, you need to spend money. And sometimes you do not have enough money for that. If we compare how much money we spend to go on holidays to how much money we actually spend on skilling, there is a big difference. In terms, of course, because some do not afford it, but also because people do not know that this is also an investment to skill yourself. But coming back to the interaction with the private sector, I think more needs to be done in this regard, in creating better ways to work together on this goal with the private sector. There are some positive examples in some Nordic countries, for instance, but we don't have those ecosystems across Europe. We need to develop hubs where we can interact with the private sector on this matter. We need the legal framework that will enable us to work with the private sector. We need financial resources. We need easier to access mechanism for the private sector to use EU money or national money to skill people. So we need to make sure that there is a certain level of accountability. We need to make sure, of course, we are also working together in developing of strategies or policies, and that there are rewards at the end of the game if we are working together in this direction. Unfortunately, we do not have that. We don't have a clear format. And we have indeed companies that are more involved and companies that are less involved. For instance, we have difficulties in working with SMEs, in convincing SMEs to invest in the skilling of their staff, but also in helping SMEs have enough money to invest in the skilling of their staff. So if you look at statistics, you see that people in bigger companies tend to have a better access to skilling than the workers in smaller companies. And of course, when we refer to skilling, we need to understand that it's not only about technological and digital skills. We need several types of skills in different domains, because you also need to train the people that work in a small factory. We also need to train people that work in a shop. We need also to train people that work in a small dentistry or in a pharmacy. We also need to train those people, not only the ones that work in big multinational companies. And how do we do that? It's even more complex. And of course, for that, we need also to engage with those small companies, because today at European level, 98% of European companies are SMEs. So we can focus on the 2%, but we need to focus on the 98% as well. And in some cases, we need also to train entrepreneurs. We need to train the ones managing those small entities as well. So, as I said, again, this is not an easy solution, but we need to recognize there are many positive examples. The colleagues that you invited today, the other two speakers, are showing us that this is possible, are showing us that things are happening. But do we really scale them enough? Do we really support them to become European stakeholders or have an impact at European level? I'm worried that we are not actually managing to do that, despite the efforts. I know there are there are people at the level of the Commission that really do a great job, but I think that they need more resources. We need to profile skilling and upskilling at the Commission level for the next mandate. And again, not only when we launch reports, but beyond that. Every day, this is a daily job. If we want to have an impact, this will not bring votes, but this will certainly improve people's lives. And if we have this mindset, then we'll achieve the target that we need to meet together at European level.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Victor. Indeed, we have a representative from the Commission. I will bring in a second, but I see Wiebe wanted to react quickly, probably. And then we hear also from Christine, who is also here. Wiebe.
Thank you for Victor. Thank you for your broad overview and catalog of ideas. I just want to add two concrete examples to how to integrate with the companies and how companies can actually see themselves as a driver in a way, because who gets the benefit? They do. And how do you make them feel that way? That you, for instance, you do that when we work together with Danske Bank. It is one of the biggest banks in Denmark, if not the biggest, and they have many entities out other places in Europe as well. They are on a course where they need a more diverse IT and tech workforce. They need more women, and they need more ethnical diversity, and diversity in the broad sense. So they have prioritized that from the top, and it's really on their KPIs written in big letters. So all the managers are out looking for talents that will improve the diversity. So they started working together with Ready School about three years ago. And now we have a program, we call it the Ready Fellowship Program, where we simply, not simply, but it allows women from our school, you might say, into a program in Danske Bank, where Danske Bank is taking over. We're not involved per se when they're in Danske Bank for 20 weeks in a paid internship. After that, no strings attached. But if Danske Bank can get access, but they have some headcount rules, regulations that does not always allow them to take in all of them. But they take in actually as many as they can. And that is quite a few. And they really add directly to the diversity they need. Also in terms of their skill sets, which is not only tech in finance, but might be backgrounds before working with law, mathematics, lots of skills. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. The other example is addressing the SMEs, because I really agree on that point. SMEs is more than 80% of the companies in Europe, and they really badly need also to step into the the next era. And they know it. So in Denmark, we are involved in a project where we are actually investigating how can you as quickly as possible, add cybersecurity competencies to SMEs. Cybersecurity is also crucial, and so we train the women that are well educated already in other skills with a special cybersecurity fast track education, and then we which is very important, we simply have meetings together with SMEs where they can get a sense of each other. Who are these potential women working here? That could work here? What would it take from us to integrate someone with a different profile? And usually, they will get there by some point. But it's also about culture and traditions, and can we add another culture that is not Danish and stuff like that? Yeah. They will get there.
Thank you, Vibe, for complimenting with these two great concrete examples. And I see, again, time is running fast. So I'd like now to bring in Christine Krivmane, sorry for the pronunciation, from the European Commission DG Employment, who is here today as an active participant, because if I'm not wrong, you've been working on the European Year of Skills. So it's great to see the recognition of the importance of skills, being skills, a dedicated subject for a European year. So please, Christine, maybe you can share with us a little bit what you've been doing or share a reflection of what you've been hearing so far.
Thank you very much for the floor, Alessandra. And I'm here today with my colleague Larissa from the team as well. Indeed, we've been running the European Year of Skills from May to May, in ending now in 2024. And the topic, skills, of course, as we understand, is now a very important topic across Europe. Every economic sector needs skills, and it has been now receiving the political attention. That's why you are also seeing it in the new political guidelines of our President von der Leyen, that the skills, bridging the skills and labor gap will be one of the political priorities for the next Commission, and also investing in youth. Yeah, so the topics of today. And we've been working relentlessly, actually, throughout the year with the main objective, which is start changing mindsets. And mindsets at a very different level, at an individual level, to understand that upskilling is part of your lifelong journey. At an employer level, to make sure that training is provided at hours which are suitable, with some enabling conditions such as childcare, perhaps for women, some other enabling conditions for young people. Young people are entering this labor market, and these are different generations, and we need to embrace also the innovative, creative thinking they bring, and also adapt. And then at the level of member states, of course, and national governments, to provide, the enabling conditions. And we did this. When I say we, this was a huge European effort together with EU institutions, with social partners, with businesses, with civil society. And very importantly, we tried to go as much as possible beyond the Brussels bubble. We had national coordinators who were exchanging on the good practices, and many of the points that came up today have also been very much discussed throughout the year. Yes, the need to provide tailor-made solutions. Youth is not they are not all the same. The people who find themselves not in education, employment, and training, they all have different reasons. And of course, you need to provide tailor-made solutions for all of them. The same about the involvement of private sector. We have concretely focused a lot on supporting SMEs. And interestingly, we had very good practices shared by member states such as Belgium, such as the Netherlands. And it's not always about money. It's actually about instilling the lifelong learning culture in an SME already in the vision. And, they are very small. They are always sometimes, 1 or 3 people. So it's a lot about really believing that lifelong learning is important and making it accessible to people. So all of this, just to say that the question about platforms at EU level came up, because there is a lot of funding, of course. There is a lot of EU funding. There was the reinforced youth guarantee. We launched the call for needs in the year as a dedicated action. But we, of course, see that sometimes the funding doesn't reach, the people who need to be reached. Access is difficult. And so we had, of course, a lot of discussion also about public and private partnerships in this sense. But we do have actually functioning partnerships at European level for skilling. And there are several, and I will start with PACT, and then I think Larissa will complement. PACT for Skills is exactly an initiative which unites public sector, private sector, social partners, education and training providers. We currently have many large-scale partnerships in all industrial ecosystems. And these are not only words, because to date, they have already provided training for 3.5 million people with a collective investment of 310 million. So we will, as a Commission, continue strengthening PACT, because we see that this is the way to go in partnership. And of course, providing the opportunities where the people are. And this is often local level, this is often regional level. But now I'll let also Larissa to tell you about other good practices, since we are sharing some good practices today.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm going to talk a bit about the Centers of Vocational Excellence, or in short, COVES, which are really, really great examples of public-private partnerships. They are actually networks of different partners from different sectors, I would say. So we also have educational institutions, we have the private companies, including also SMEs, but also local authorities, also NGOs, and even the higher education. And the goal for them, basically, they are developing these local ecosystems where they want to provide really quality vocational training or vocational skills to young people, but also contribute to development of the regions and also create innovation. And up to date, between 21 and 27, actually, these Centers of Vocational Excellence are funded under Erasmus+. And there are 400 million euros involved in these initiatives, basically. And up to date, there are 53 of them created. They also cover different sectors, as also Christine said before. So some of them, they cover maybe tourism or the green part, but also maybe in line with the, both digital and green transitions. Some of them, they work on offshore or even hydrogen and so on. So just to give you some examples, some of them, for example, created curriculum together. So they work together, educational institutions and also with private companies, how we can create curriculum. So then we have these young people who are skilled to go to companies, because you even said, Alessandra, before that sometimes the private sector is complaining that, okay, you have the people, but they don't have the skills that we need. So this is a really great example where you have young people which are skilled for what is actually needed from the labor market. And another example is also putting them together to work, young people and also these companies. And there are also hackathons created by them where they work together on problems that these companies have. So then the young people also saw the environment and how the companies work, but also companies involve these young people to also bring in ideas. So these Centers of Vocational Excellence are really interesting. You can also search, maybe we can put a link there later so you can see. And they're also across all Europe, and even they have some partner countries, of course, from other countries, basically. And they also work together between different countries. So it's not only a project within a country, but across countries. And maybe also the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. It's also a great platform for people to come together to talk about apprenticeships, especially within SMEs. And this is also a great value that we can bring in people together. And also we work together with the European Apprentices Network. So again, we also ask young people, what do you think, how you do, and also what you need from us to work on. And again, the European Alliance for Apprenticeships has so many members, and it's upskilled in total more than 2.5 million young people since its creation. Last year, they celebrated 10-year anniversary. So I think there are different platforms. We just need to know about them. And this is why we also, through the European Year of Skills, try to promote a bit what is already there, but also work on their implementation. Thank you so much.
Putting the link in the chat, so don't hesitate. Go check out. And now I think back to you, Alessandra.
Yeah, thank you so much. And don't hesitate to also share with me, and then I can share with all our participants in the follow-up email of the event. Well, I see it's already 12:45. I don't know about you, but it went really fast with me. I'm a little bit sorry because we didn't manage to really bring anyone in from the audience. If panelists agree, if there's anyone who would like to ask maybe a question from the audience, because we promised this would be interactive. I just want to stick with the promise. I didn't see any question from the chat. So I also assume that we managed to cover quite a lot. It's a lot of food for thought in terms of how we can better strategically think about the problem and find solutions and have amazing best practices here in the panel. So I also encourage all of you to get in touch with each other via LinkedIn or via us to, continue the discussion. Of course, that's also our purpose, to connect all of you. And thanks again also to Christina and Larissa, who managed to jump in and provide the perspective of the Commission. But I don't see any hand up, so I guess you're all ready to go and enjoy your lunch probably. But before that, I just want to once again mention that this is part of a study we ran previously. It's called 2024 Voices. I will put the link in the chat, but we'll also share with you afterwards. You can have a look. And I'm very grateful to all of you, Mr. Negrescu, Mr. Lai, and Ms. Lingert-Bach, for your great contributions and your precious time, and to all of you for attending. And I hope you all enjoyed the discussion. We will also publish it afterwards, so in case you want to rewatch it or share with someone who didn't have the chance to join, you can. So thank you so much. Stay tuned on Debating Europe, and see you next time for another exciting discussion. Thank you all very much.